it is hot. And you know what sucks worse than it being 96 degrees with a feels like of 104? It being 96 degrees with a feels like of 104 in a car where you can't roll down the damn window and AC only has concepts of a plan. And that's kind of what we're dealing with here with Mary Jane. So yeah, when I took delivery, the window had been taped up, and that's because the crank, whatever, doesn't work. It'll just randomly drop down and do whatever it wants to do. AC is that's a whole nother project. That Miles was supposed to do AC like a decade ago. That never happened. The Phantom Menace sure as hell wasn't going to do AC, and so now that burden has fallen on me. However, we did have a nice little selection of parts that came with the car, so shout out to Mr. WS6 on that one. Most importantly right now, we've got this nice manual crank window regulator. So plan is to get that installed so then we can have a functioning crank window. So that's what this installment of Fun with Mary Jane is going to be. I don't recall what episode we're on or volume, but that'll be on the screen somewhere. So we want to put a regulator in a manual crank window 240. Stay tuned. All right, so time to get to work with our handy dandy door panel. Pardon my lawn care enthusiast neighbor, or the friend that he had come over to do the lawn. This guy has been over here cutting this grass for at least an hour with this push mower in this heat. Shout out to him, because if my old behind were out there at 90 years old cutting grass in this weather, I probably would have had a heat stroke. In any event, back to the task at hand. One of the cool things about old school Volvos, and again, I will keep reiterating, this is by far the oldest car I've ever owned, and certainly the oldest Volvo. But one of the neat things is that apparently back in 1975, Volvo had not yet figured out what Torx fasteners were, and so everything just uses regular screws and nuts and bolts. So that's kind of nice. So it looks like you can kind of take this thing apart with a decent multi-tool if you were really in a tough spot. So like this door handle for the crank handle here, just a straight slotted screw. And unlike the crazy Torx that are down in here, that's just a Phillips. That's a Phillips. We got Phillips for the speaker, although I don't think those are original. And we should be able to then pop this thing off. So if there are any deviations from that, then I'll make sure to pop back and let you know. But otherwise, we'll have this door panel off in no time. All right, so apparently this the old school armrest is just a little bit different than the newer style. These bolts are still a decent length. They're recessed down in there, so that's a simple job of a Phillips screw. Now this top piece is actually a little bit different. We've got that interesting screw set up there, and you can see it's got a slotted hole, almost like pegboard, in the door, where you just slide it in and then it slides down. So instead of the winged fastener on the late style doors, you have to turn 90 degrees and pull straight out. This one, you kind of position this one in first, slide it down into position, and then bolt these two on. And then when you remove it, unbolt these two, just kind of slides up and it can come straight out. So slight tweak, but good to know. Oh yeah, and another thing, some things are simple, like these little knobs screw off just like normal, no biggie there. But this also gives me a chance to troubleshoot this speaker and figure out why this has never worked. Now the passenger side speaker, which has the cover on it as well, that works perfectly fine, but this driver side speaker has never worked, and we are not sure exactly why. So maybe there'll be some kind of smoking gun that makes that a very easy question to answer. This thing is about to fall off. I don't know what kind of crazy jerry rig setup this is. Hold on. See, can we balance this on my knee? And no, it's definitely not gonna work. Here. Alright, that works. What the hell is it? The Phantom Menace strikes again. What the hell is this crap? So we got a long screw with some split washers and then a piece of fuel hose as a standoff, because I guess these speakers are too deep to clear the window. What kind of jerry-rigged bullshit is this? And oh my, hold on, you're not gonna believe this bullshit. What the hell is this? Phantom Menace strikes again. What kind of bullshit audio setup is this supposed to be? You have got to be kidding me. Zip ties? My guy, zip ties on the damn speaker wires. And it looks like there was some half-ass attempt to solder at some point, and then they just gave up and figured they just wrap the wires around. And I guess they just threw some electrical tape in the general vicinity, like, it'll figure it out on its own. And then, I don't even, it's a good thing audio is not that important to me. Good God. This is an absolute travesty. Some people should never be allowed to work on cars. Never. And the Phantom Menace is definitely one of them. Alright, well, I'm going to go get the snips and get this piece of crap out of here. Alright, now that I got that monstrosity out of there, and I took a second to walk around and calm down, time to move on. So, we got to get this door pocket off. These are pretty simple. Just go in there real lightly and just pry very gently, because they can get old and brittle. And you can see that there's just some little slight indentations that fit into that cup on the back side. Once that is off, this is supposed to stay in the door, but I'm guessing the little clips on the back side are probably broken off. This little triangle piece just pulls straight up. Yours may require some more force. We'll get that on the back side. And there should just be some little clips, so just feel around the edge. You'll feel them kind of pop out. But just go around and be very gentle. There we go. There we go. Gentle, gentle. Because these door panels are not the sturdiest construction where those little clips mount to them. There we go. And then once those are all off, don't think there's anything in this pocket. No. You should be able to just lift the door panel up over the edge here at the window. There we go. Okay. Oh, can't wait to see what kind of nonsense we are going to find behind here. I mean, fortunately, there's no power windows. I'd hate to see how the Phantom Menace would have caught himself monkey with that system. All right, well, gotta say, in the grand scheme of things, these door panels don't look too bad, especially for a 75. I mean, heck, I've seen 90s door panels look much worse than this. So we will call that a blessing. All right, so we got the door panel off. We got the tape securing the window off. Now, let's see what this thing does. Okay. Well, that's the first problem. So the window's still cracked. And this thing is just camming out, doing nothing. Now, when it comes to lowering the window, seems like it's doing an okay job. Okay. Boom. So now window's fully lowered. Let's see, what do we see? I mean, window's still in the track over here. In the track over there. Don't see any glaring problems. Let's try to Wind this thing back up. Let's see what it does. Okay. Goes out that way. Okay. Huh. Yeah. It just cams out and does not want to go all the way up. And I'm looking at some of these teeth actually. And it looks like maybe that's the problem. Some of these teeth do look a little bit worn, but doesn't look like anything crazy. It's a fairly simple matter, I guess, to get this thing out since there's no motor to deal with. So I guess we'll get it out and we'll compare it to the one we have and see what the actual problem is. That should be a fairly easy matter. Like the power windows, we just have to get this thing lowered to the point where we can take off. There's a clip behind here and then there's a clip behind here. Once you do that, then the window can just pull straight out of the top of the door frame. So let's see if we can direction this that. Here. I feel like I should be doing this with gloves because these clips seem like they might want to cut you. Okay, well, it's a good thing I went and grabbed my gloves because I would have definitely cut myself trying to force that clip off in the wrong direction. So these are different than the new clips, the modern clips. So normally we'd want to take the clip off by pushing this way on the open clip. These actually go off the opposite way. Push this way and then it slides off like that. So you actually put it on by the connected section of the clip, which is good to know. So now I can get this clip off. There we go. So there's that clip. And just gonna get this one. Came off a little bit easier. Okay. Yeah, so we got and there was a little plastic washer. There we go. That goes on here in between the window and that metal piece on that side, and then on this side. There we go. And there's the other washer. All in all, 240 windows are probably some of the absolute easiest to deal with. And now we can set about getting this regulator out, which will be an easy affair. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 mil bolts, and that thing should be out of there. Alright, now once you remove these 4 10 mil bolts, you've still got one connection back here on this slider, so it's just a matter of removing this clip and that little plastic washer. Keep track of that, and that'll slide out. Regulator will be free. Alright, so this is what's in there, and this is what we have. Not gonna lie, it doesn't look a whole lot different, but we'll do a deeper dive here in the shade. Don't have to be a genius detective to figure out what's going on with these things. So this is the one that came out, and what would happen, as we saw, is that it got to the top and then it would just click and cam out, and the teeth would not engage and actually move this thing any further. Well, just picking it up by the center section, you can see that there's a lot of play here. And going to this new one, you know, it's comparatively, I mean, it's still like a 40-50-year-old piece, but it stays in place. And right here you can see on the back side that this is not even anymore. Whatever this little pin is, it looks like it's just kind of worked its way out. And maybe with the hammer, you know, because you can see the angle there, it's got quite a bit of gap to it. I think if you put a socket behind this and then tap this with a hammer, you can probably push that back. Oh yeah, I just did it with my finger. Yeah, this thing is seeing its best days, that's for sure. But yeah, that's what's going on. This is allowing the part that holds the handle to move around. And you look at the teeth engagement, it's pretty thin. And you can see the upper teeth up here. This is where it's trying to actually close the window, like that last inch or so. And these teeth are just completely mutilated. My God, this guy is still out here cutting this grass. It's been like 2 hours. I promise you that yard is not that big. But he probably had to go to the hospital to get an IV. I don't know why you'd be out here peak sunlight on a day like this cutting the grass, and he's got long sleeves and a freaking apron on. In any event, yeah, so these teeth, because it's all cammed out, have been completely mutilated. So I don't think there's any saving this one. Fortunately, we don't have any of those problems with this unit over here, and it's not all rustified, so that's another plus. The actuators, oh yeah, I mean, that spins way better. I mean, it's even harder to turn this one. This thing is effortless. So, and those teeth at the top end are still in nice shape. So we're just gonna clean this up real quick and put some nice grease in here. Hopefully it'll be a nice long service life and we don't have to see this thing again. Okay, so to help with that long service life, we're gonna throw some silicone grease on here right along the tracks and in the teeth. Already did that and spun this motor back and forth a couple times. Feels good. And then in the pivoting sections up here that we also want to remain in service for a while, we're going to actually take a little bit of firearms oil, because it's made for getting into tight spaces, and just put a couple of drops right there. I'll rotate that. Yeah, there we go. Nice and easy. Alright. And then I'll be able to get some grease on these pins right here where it actually interfaces with the window. We'll do some silicone grease on those sections as well. But it's time to get this thing back in the car before we have one of those. I know it was just 96 degrees, what it feels like a 104, but we're going to go ahead and drop a rainstorm on you type of Florida moments. Alright, so now everything's lubed up and working properly. We are going to reinstall. Install, of course, is the reverse of removal, but one thing I forgot to mention, this is probably actually easier to get the window in before you bolt on the regulator, just because it hangs out and gets in the way back there. In there. Now it's just a matter of lifting it as we guide it back into the track. That way I can see I've got these little pins onto the window. Pull that back. That's one. That's two. And then all we need to do is for the one with the plastic guide rail, there's another plastic bushing. So we're going to lube that up. And slide that over the shaft on this side. So there's a plastic bushing between the back side and the plastic, and on the front side in the plastic. And we will take one of these good old clips. That's on there, and then we got one more. Boom. All right, so now everything is hooked back up, and we should have a window that now will smoothly crank all the way up and all the way down. So let's test that theory. It's already way smoother than it was before. Boom, all the way up, no problem. And down, it's like butter. So, I will say that. And you see the mechanisms. I'm trying to close this door. The reason we lubed all that is so this can slide freely and easily as the window goes up and down. Same thing with this down here. Well, that disappears rather quickly as it starts moving, but same thing. We want to keep as much stress off of the handle and the crank mechanism and all that other stuff as possible. Now I am going to try to shift this around a little bit to align that more centered in the hole before I reassemble everything, but now we can drive around and not roast and die because we can actually take the window down. So I'll say that is a job well done, and that's it for this update on Mary Jane, the next episode. So until next time, friends, we will see you later. Shooter Driver out.